All right, welcome everybody to TSP number 75. I am Dr. Evil Genius. Now, uh, I just want to kind of start this off by saying that this is not a subject that I really wanted to broach. Not now and not ever again. But there were some really interesting things that uh, Captain Paul wanted to say on the subject. And one of our viewers had some really interesting things to say on the last Just Pearly Things conversation video that we had on this channel. And so I wanted to give uh, this person a chance to speak. Where's Captain Paul? Right now, not quite sure. But Captain Paul has been burning the midnight oil, creating a lot of videos in a very short period of time covering the NHL playoffs. So as you guys know, Captain Paul is still recovering from hip surgery. I think he got off crutches somewhat recently. And I'm not sure if Captain Paul is going to be able to join us for today's episode. And a hearty good morning to Mrs. Evil. How you doing? Thank you so much. Mrs. Evil really does a lot to support the platform here on TSP. If you haven't done so already, please hit that like button, the share button, the subscribe button. Again, I really did not want to touch on this topic again. But there are some new perspectives, and yeah. So a lot of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about kind of require Captain Paul, his input. But he is not like really available. Hey, it's afternoon where Traditionalist is in Europe. It's good to see you. Good, buddy. Very happy to have you around, sir. Okay, so yeah, so I mentioned to you guys, in fact, I think it would probably be a good idea if, you know what, I'm just going to let the man speak for himself. Hey, Spy J. Let me see if I can. I don't know what it is with StreamYard with the mics. Come on, StreamYard, you got me struggle streaming. Clicking to unmute the mic, and it's not unmuting the mic. Come on. What is wrong with StreamYard? Oh, there we go. Hey, Spy, you with us? I don't know. Are we having some sort of a technical difficulty here? Let me see. Okay, the mic is muted again. I'm wondering if this is a problem with StreamYard. Okay, so he is going to need to be, I think there's something wrong with Spy's I think Spy is having some issues with his phone. So, but anyway, Spy had some really interesting things to say. Let me see if I can bring up some of the interesting things that he had to say on this Just Pearly Things topic. I think it was more talking about ABBA and Preach and their approach to public discourse in that's what I was looking for. Okay. Holy crap. Sorry about this, guys. I was not expecting to be hosting solo today. Okay, so I think we definitely did our job on. We definitely did our job here. Let me share this and let's see what we've got going on here. Shit, I'm not getting what I want. All right, let's see. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. Having some issues here. Let's see. Hey, Spy, you with us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go, Spy. How you doing?
All right. Good morning.
All right,
How are you
so,
doing?
We struggled streaming to start the podcast today. I'm a little frustrated, if I can be honest with all of you. Excuse me, a little bit of housekeeping. I want to shout out to you people that listen on Spotify. For those that don't know, we are on Spotify now, and so probably some other podcasting networks. Shout out to you guys too if you stumble upon us. We really do appreciate you kind of integrating yourself into the family. So this one says the link to JT's YouTube channel in the description is broken. So yeah, this is extremely frustrating, and that's super duper annoying. Let me see if I can fix it with separating some things here. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I can fix it from where I'm at right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Just type in Spy J.
Yeah.
That should do the trick. It's PYJY.
Yeah.
It's the app.
Yeah. His if I can I'm just gonna kind of write a comment in there for you. If you go to YouTube, you'll find him if you go here. Okay. So I'm gonna kind of go through something that you said in the original video, and we're going to go from there. Really wish they would do without this. View comment on YouTube. No, we're not. We're not doing commercials. So fuck off. Okay, now I can make this bigger. Yay. Okay. Sorry about this, folks. All right, so we get to Spy J's comment. We finally made it. God damn it. Spy J says, also avoided this video, talking about the video where ABBA is running his mouth about Pearl and insulting her and all these things, and doxing their communications or her attempted communications, and I didn't like her anyway. All of this weirdo stuff that ABBA is not known for. I got your video on my recommended, so then I watched the video to better understand this video because I knew what it was going to be about. I knew they'd make a fool of themselves and be so superficial with so many predetermined conclusions that they tend to draw. I actually don't think it's because they're feeling themselves. I think it's because they've made up their mind on what the manosphere is ever since the frauds in Florida beef. Have you seen their earlier video on Pearl? There's one of her getting owned by a guy she disagrees with on whether or not divorcing behind chores is a good reason. In the beginning of the video, before they even watched it all, they make a comment about how everyone in the manosphere running a podcast and reading studies while not having any actual experience, as though no one in the field has ever had a basis or solid concept of what's wrong with modern women in dating. They were just so close-minded, and I could feel the difference between their commentary, that video compared to their previous videos. So when I saw their new video on Pearl, I avoided it because I knew what it was. Propaganda, not the political kind, but the whole, I'm going to promote these ideas and concepts in hopes that everyone else will take the same stance. And the things with these YouTubers like ABBA and Preach is that after a certain point, we all start to feel inclined to agree with them or believe them without dissecting it and figuring out what we really need, what we really think, excuse me. That's why their comment sections will always mirror whatever stance was in the video, because not everyone does that. Not everyone takes a minute to sit and think, just like they didn't when Pearl couldn't been heard better about her stance. Didn't quite get that. You can clarify in a moment. So I appreciate you making this video and holding on to your true opinions, even though it doesn't agree with what's popular right now. Even the title is perfect because I still like them both. I don't think this makes them bad or anything. I just think that, like you've put it, they've missed their mark and maybe need to let go of this resentment they have towards the manosphere. And so I was very impressed by your commentary. So can you kind of, I mean, maybe there's not a whole lot more that you can do to expand on these thoughts, but I'd like to know your I guess since there's more material, what your opinion is on how this has kind of metastasized.
Yeah. So, and to clarify that that misstep that you had in reading the comment, I basically meant that it didn't seem like anyone was trying to understand Pearl. It didn't seem like anyone was trying to at least listen to each other. Uh, so the material is a result of Pearl reacting to that video. Reacting to the hit piece on her that you guys covered, where they didn't do their homework, and then the new video that came out that we were tasked to watch last night was them reacting to that video. Oh, thank you. And I feel like you can just hear it in their voice. You can hear it in their energy. So I've been watching them for a while now, and their videos when they cover these topics, these individuals, it's not the same as when they're doing all the other videos. They're only You could tell that it's more emotionally driven. You could tell that it's okay. These people I don't like. We already know what our opinion is. We've made up our mind, and this is the energy. This is how we're going to transcribe those emotions by invalidating them, by labeling them, by making up scenarios. That's another thing that they do. When they're saying that Pearl is wrong about something, what they do is they take her analogy and then flip it with a new analogy in which their argument is right, rather than okay. But in general, it's the whole like the exception that apparently makes the rules. Everyone knows the exceptions don't make the rules. And then next thing you know, they think that they've picked apart Pearl's argument, and then everyone has their side on their video to take.
Yeah, I couldn't put it in better words. I want to give a quick shout out to Justin Millen of startfireside.com. You know, we've done a couple reviews on some of the content that he is developing for his communications platform. And he's got a very exciting symposium coming up on biases and logical fallacies. And Spy touched on you touched on it perfectly. The uh, it's almost like it's a logical fallacy based on a bias, where you can take one
Yeah,
particular situation, try to change it to another situation, and then equate that, and then say that's why your argument is wrong. I'll give you an example. I had somebody approach me on Twitter regarding uh, a video that we did last year about people who think that some crimes are acceptable. For instance, if you own a pickup truck or an SUV and somebody else thinks that you shouldn't own it, they think it's okay for them to destroy your property because they don't like those particular types of vehicles, because they believe that those vehicles could possibly injure someone in an automobile collision. So since they think that you should not be able to own said possession, they think that they're within their rights to take it from you. So when I reminded them that my rights start where theirs end, which is when they start to encroach upon me, they changed the because basically what I was saying is, if you don't like pickup trucks or SUVs, just don't buy one, and you know that's your prerogative. So they switched it up and said, well, something about theft. If you don't like theft, then don't steal. So you want to equate owning a legal vehicle that's bought, paid for, taxes, all of that. You know, you can drive it safely and not harm anyone. You want to equate that to a crime. You get what I'm saying, Spy?
yeah, and you're right, and that's basically a parallel to this, right? Like they're yeah, like you said, turning it into a different situation. I remember that with the initial video that they did reacting to Pearl. The conversation about chores, and they start out their video by talking about a specific situation regarding chores where it makes sense for the other partner to leave the marriage. However, Pearl didn't say anything about that particular scenario. But they used that scenario as like a catch-all to go, yes, well, you're wrong because in this particular situation, you're wrong. Therefore, you're wrong in all situations because you didn't check. It doesn't check all the boxes.
Right. And I think that some people kind of get into the weeds instead of understanding the principle of what's being discussed. And unfortunately, I believe that a lot of times when it's done intentionally to try to derail the conversation. Now, I think that you made a really good segue to the video that we are going to review. I did not get a chance to review this video because I've got a social life apparently now. So, you know, I went to the Mets game. Thank you, New York Mets, for playing very poorly against Washington Nationals on Tuesday, April 25th. You played poorly on offense, you played poorly on defense, and your pitching was poor. Like, you could not have played a worse game against a terrible team and get dominated by an awful team. So thank you for that. I paid a lot of money to watch you guys mail it in. So yeah, I did not cover this as of yet, but we're going to cover this together, Spy. You're going to be my Captain Paul, and we're going to react to at least a part of this video. Yeah. So one of the things that you'll notice is at the very top, they start off with an insult. And are you familiar with Kevin Samuels, Spy?
Of course, he's my number three. He's like my third idol.
Right, gotcha. So he created an acronym called SIGN, SIGN.
Yep.
And what it stands for is people who are being disingenuous in discussion, in public discourse, or even private discourse.
Yep.
Some of the things that they will use to try to dominate the conversation while pretty much being wrong: shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. And I always say that when you insult someone in some sort of conceptual or intellectual argument, you've already lost the argument. And you know who else would say that, Spy?
Who else would say that?
Abba and Preach would normally usually say something like that. But right here in the title, the very first thing they say is an insult. So I just want to kind of make...
I watched this video last night, and Pearl's reaction to their initial video,
let's not jump the gun. Let's actually get to the... We're gonna actually...
Okay, I'll circle back to it.
Yeah, we'll circle back, but let's let them run their gambit here.
I am going to be reacting to Avin Preach's hit piece on me.
When you have a house, there's a lot of chores. There's a lot of shit to do around the house. A lot. And she works all day bringing that paper, that's that. And then she goes home and she still got to do some work. It's gonna take a toll. And she doesn't feel like it's separated at work like that. She doesn't feel like the work is equally separated at home. It's gonna be a burden. It's definitely going to be a burden.
And see, like, this is the thing. A lot of these reaction channels will try to nitpick, and they'll be like, well, if she's working, the chores are going to be hard. Guys, marriage is supposed to be hard. And I've told this story like many times on my channel, so I'm just going to tell it again. There's a relative of mine, and this relative was married for 50 years. And this woman did not believe in divorce. Like, it was just not an option in her book. And her husband actually left the family for another woman. And she prayed to God for a solution, because that was her belief. She did not believe in she did not believe in divorce. So her husband leaves, and the side chick died. He came home and she didn't throw it over his head. She asked where they went wrong in the marriage and how they could fix it. And that's the thing. Like, a lot of times people in our generation are so quick to throw in the towel. Like, people used to have their husbands go to...
Okay. Now, he's using his facial features to send a message here. What did you get from this so far, Spy?
So she's basically setting up an analogy, her scenario to back up her argument of, her aunt who was married for 50 years, she said, I believe, and how, the side chick died and then the husband came back around to ask, what can we do to fix this, what went wrong? And I think what how she kind of devalued her own argument was how the guy was kind of not a noble guy to do that. Like, why go be with a side chick and then wait for that to fall apart and then go on and want to try to fix things. I think we talked about this in our setup meeting where we were like, you have two bad decisions and one that's worse than the other. So you pick the one that's not as bad. It's kind of like that. So you diagnose that perfectly. However, I don't think that was the focus of her argument. Her focus was her energy toward marriage was 50 years because divorce is not an option. That's how much it means to me. And that's how determined she was to make it work and how determined she was on him. And in a sense, it's like, okay, I get that, but I'm not the one that gave up. And basically what she's trying to say is our generation is my generation, maybe a bit of your generation, it is quick to throw in the towel. That's what she said. And it's easy to find reasons and to not be happy. And also, what would happen if, don't we always do the clip all the time of I feel like women are basically being incentivized to leave. Because if they leave, how much does the man lose? How much does a woman lose? She loses a husband. And if she's a woman with options, that's not much of a loss. So at the same time, she's saying that since it's not much of a loss these days, since you basically gain as a woman from divorcing, then yeah, we're to each throw in the towel because it's not a loss factor. Plus, families aren't considered cool anymore, to be honest. So even splitting up a family isn't seen as a genuine concern.
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head when you spoke about the principle of not being quick to throw in the towel. That was really the main point of her telling the story. It wasn't that you should take somebody back that leaves you. That wasn't the point. It was the mindset that she had that she wasn't going to hold it over somebody else's head, because happy people don't change things in their life, especially men. Like we men, we will stick with the same chick for 124 years. And as long as everything is cool, where the fuck are we going to go? I mean, now we do like some vaginal variety, but having access to variety when it comes to women, experiences with women, I should say, that is not going to get a man to just walk out the door and stay gone. Something is wrong. And men tend to not want to leave marriages. We tend to want to stay. And that shows in the divorce statistics where women initiate divorce at the very least 70% of the time. And in some sub-demographics, as much as 80% of the time. Guys are not generally leaving the women. So I think that she had a principle going, and it's just like, well, if you're going to divorce over chores, it doesn't make a lot of sense because it kind of makes you look weak that you couldn't handle something like that. And then there is the logical next step where if you leave that man and you're single, not only will you need to work another job, but you will still need to do all of those chores anyway, because now you're single. Like what? Somebody's just going to magically start doing the chores because you divorced your husband? Like that doesn't even make sense. So I think that that's really where she was coming from. Like, you know, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. You good, Spy?
I also want to say that I've noticed this through my own interactions when people tend to have a response regardless because, you know, they need to be right. However, will they respond to the main point or will they respond to the part that they can capitalize on, the weak argument? I think people would maybe call that a straw man in some cases.
I mean, that's not exactly what a straw man is, but I definitely understand exactly where you're coming from with that. And that is an intellectual, dishonest way of going about talking. So I'm looking for the hole in the argument instead of really trying to really trying to argue based on the principle of what's being spoken on. You know, her overall message wasn't, if a man leaves you, you should take him back and blame yourself. She was talking about a certain mindset of trying to make long-term bonds work regardless. And he wants to focus on
and
chores.
determination.
Right. You want to focus on, you know, and the thing is that you know, in the title it says you should stay in marriage even no matter what. And it's like, that wasn't her point. Her point was the difference between women of the past and the women of today is why marriages last longer now than they used to. Like women didn't get all wrapped up in shit that didn't matter for the same reason you just mentioned, Spy, that they think that because, Big Daddy government is going to punish the bad man by giving her half of his assets and alimony in perpetuity and take away his kids and access to his kids and all this other stuff, that now she's in the driver's position. So now it's like, well, I don't even really need to be a wife. I can get my wedding and everybody looks at me and showers me with attention. And then at any moment, I can just, he's not doing enough chores. That dude is tasked with making sure that you're protected and provided for. So you're going to throw away your marriage and get rid of your physical protector. And then, of course, blame the man when after, he's gone and your access to personal security is now gone. If something happens to you, well, that's now his fault too, since you left the marriage. So I think that, again, the main point was divorcing a man over chores is insane. And maybe my aunt didn't do like the right thing by herself by staying with that man or allowing that man to come back after the side chick passed or whatever. But that was her mindset. So he wanted to, focus on the myopic part of what she was saying instead of seeing the macro. And I thought that that was intellectually disingenuous.
A war.
Is your idea of commitment staying married until death do us part to somebody who left you for another person?
That's not what she was saying.
What?
She said that's what her aunt
Fellas, if your wife leaves you for another woman and tries to get married with that person and they're together for a long time and then the other man dies and she tried to come back, are you a great husband for waiting? But you expect the woman to do that.
They would have called that man a whole ass cuck.
A simp.
A simp.
They would have called him Sneeko. Listen, just lonely things over here, okay, without her man.
Did we just get into more insults, Spy?
Yep, another insult.
Yeah, we can't. I mean, he can't even help himself. He's so emotionally. And the thing is, I've never seen ABBA like really this. They handled the frauds in Florida situation way better than this. Like they kept it, to attacking the ideas, and they kept saying that throughout the whole field. We don't attack people, we attack ideas. And of course, they would make fun of, we are better than you niggas, right? Like they, that was funny, right? Like they're making jokes and stuff. But when it comes to a woman here, with a man, they can kind of keep it on topic. With H3, with Destiny and all these people, they were able to keep it on topic. But we're going to keep insulting this woman here, though. I think that's a little bit sus. That's just my.
You paused me at the right time, by the way. That's how that face has me.
Yeah. Shout out to the Undertaker.
Okay, it's telling you to wait lonely by yourself years for a husband who not coming home. What?
That is not what she said. That's not what she said. She said that's what her aunt did.
Work all day, you have to go home, then you have to cook. Yeah, you have to cook. Then you have to clean. Then you have to put the kids to bed. Then you have to do.
But do you hear how spoiled we are? Do you hear how spoiled this sounds? Like people used to get divorced for real reasons, like the death of a child. My husband's mistress. And now it's because you're frustrated over a messy house.
But after a couple of weeks, it's really fast for you to be drained.
Man, I didn't even watch this video.
Why not drain?
And I knew that's what she was saying.
You can allow it to drain you or you cannot.
Just keep it rolling.
Do you know why he's saying keep it rolling? Because they tried to derail her argument, and as she continued to keep talking, they realized that the position that they took was a non sequitur. They wanted to harp on the fact that, she's telling women to just wait around for men that leave. That is not what she said. That is not what she said. She didn't even imply that that's what you should do. She said, look at the difference in mindset between women who had long marriages and women of today who are willing to end it because they don't like the way that you sneezed last Thursday night. That's what she's talking about. And then when she gets back to her point, yeah, just keep it rolling. Yeah, because you're being intellectually dishonest. You want to say that she's saying that you should do this when she didn't say that. And you guys constantly call out people like Ethan Klein, for doing that, and then you did it here. You just called out Ethan Klein for doing exactly what you did here. Have you seen the video that they did about Ethan Klein putting words in the man's mouth because the man was saying that he didn't want his woman advertising a for sale sign on her body all over Instagram, and then he's like, "Well, that's not what I want in my relationship." And then Ethan is like, "Well, that's because you're insecure, right?" The fuck? Have you seen that video, Spy?
I saw several people covering those videos, covering that situation, and as a result, I skipped over those Ab Peach videos. I didn't even know what to expect.
Right.
And to circle back on what you said, how many people can say nowadays that they have a wife who's going to stay with them 50 years? That's the point.
Oh, I can say that. Shout out to Mrs. Evil. Shout out to
The exception, right?
Rolling Diary. Yeah, I might be the exception.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, and I'd rather be able to say that I didn't give up for X amount of years than to say that I took the easy way out.
Right. And I think that is pretty much what the point of her argument was. And again, they have like this this uncanny bias against this woman. I think it's more led by ABBA than it is Preach. But, Preach is there. He's like, I got to support my guy here. Although Preach doesn't always agree with ABBA, and he will counter some points that he doesn't necessarily agree with on occasion. But, again, I found this to be very intellectually dishonest just for the purpose of trying to dunk on this woman.
Before. You pointed out that you pointed something out in the previous reaction to one of their videos. You pointed out that that one of them is one of the more quiet ones, and the other one's just going off.
Yeah, that is. Shout out to Otis ENT. It's good to see you once again, good sir. So when Ethan was projecting intentions and thoughts and beliefs onto the young man that didn't want his girlfriend acting like a thought, they called Ethan out on that, and then they do the same thing Ethan did right here.
You're drained? That's a choice. You think being physically exhausted is a choice? You think somebody working 2 jobs, coming home late at night, goes right to bed, doesn't cook or do dishes? Do you think that's a fucking choice? Hey, everybody right now who's struggling and who's really feeling tired because you got multiple jobs, it's because you choose to be exhausted.
I've lived with all different types of people. I swear. I always had different roommates in college. And it really is a choice at the end of the day. And I grew up with 9 siblings. 9. I'm telling you, shit can be worked out.
This is coming from a girl who grew up in a mansion and has daddy pay all her bills. She's trying to tell you guys where physical exhaustion comes from. One of the most fucking privileged.
Nah, she said drained. She never said physical exhaustion. Did you? Am I wrong on that, Spy? I didn't hear her talk about anything about physical exhaustion.
I heard Pearl say one thing. I heard him say another thing.
Right. So Pearl was talking about drained as in it, killing your spirit, as in it killing your patience. When she was talking drained, she wasn't saying anything about like being tired from work, because I think that everybody gets tired from work. Pearl works really hard. Abba and Preach works really hard. They get drained physically, but she didn't say anything about physically, did she?
Not at all.
People in America is telling you Physical exhaustion is in your brain. You're imagining it.
She never said physical exhaustion.
Again, I'm not really attacking like what he's saying. It's more of the mindset behind it.
The relationship is.
I mean, and for a guy that's big on stats, okay, this is the stat man. Because again, number 2, right? So I feel like most opinions will come from lived real world experience. Second thing is studies. When you're not sure, you look at studies. I'm going to read this. This is from CBS News. All right. Does the sight of men doing traditional female chores turn women off? A new study suggests that the more time men spend on household tasks, the less sex they have. Our findings suggest the importance of socialized gender roles for sexual frequencies in heterosexual marriage. Lead author Sarbino Corich, junior researcher at the Center for Advanced Studies at the Juan March Institute in Madrid, said in a press release, couples in which men participate in more household work typically done by women report having sex less frequently. Similarly, couples in which men participate more in traditionally masculine tasks, such as yard work, paying bills, and auto maintenance, report higher sexual frequency.
I have to kind of, I mean, yeah, she's right. And I'm just gonna kind of give my own kind of synopsis on why I think this is it, and then you let me know if you think that I'm talking bullshit. I believe that women will settle for certain guys, and those guys are usually trying to do a whole lot more to please the woman. Like they're working basically at her beck and call. And women don't really respect that very much. They might like the fact that some of the burden is taken off of them. They might be, less physically exhausted by that, but they don't really respect that. The man is not holding her to any kind of standard. The man is doing things that looks kind of, you standing there washing the dishes with the apron on in the kitchen. That doesn't really, they'd much rather you lawn maintenance or fixing something in the house or, I don't know, keeping intruders out. Things of that nature.
Of a rodent in the house or something.
Right. Major, repair, seeing a man working underneath the car. I mean, we've seen that trope for decades. He's, oily and sweaty and nasty and disgusting laying underneath the car. Then he's working underneath the car. And then, you can, see the fluid, leaking from her nether regions practically as, she's bringing out lemonade or some bullshit like that. Right. So, I think that, the studies are what they are when it comes to that. And, she's like, hey, if you're going to...
There's a difference between the man and that person and the man and the other person.
Say that one more time.
There's a difference between the man and the man that exists within that guy who's doing the more traditional masculine task and the man within the person who's doing what's traditionally what the woman is doing.
Right. And the thing is, women can say that they want this. They can say that they want that. But in the end, women generally are going to be attracted to similar things. And men taking on the responsibilities of women just makes them inherently look less masculine, less appealing. That's just the way it is. Now, should it be that way? We don't give value judgments here. I don't blame a woman for wanting what she wants. I don't blame a man for wanting what he wants. In my opinion, it's all about, can you get whatever it is that you want? And if you can't, then you need to either reevaluate what your standards are or raise your game so you can get what you want. And that goes across the board for everybody.
I want to add on to that,
Study
actually.
was published.
Say that one more time.
I want to add on to that, actually.
Yeah.
I don't blame them if that's what they want, but I would blame them if they insist that that's what they want, and then come to find out that's not what they want at all, and then it ruins the relationship or ruins the marriage or whatever. Because, like you said, in the end, does that really work? In the end, it's less likely to work. The things that are traditional for a reason. They that structure that we had, however long ago, it was like that for a reason, and it worked.
Right.
It worked really well. Now they're saying, I want this, I want that. But is that going to hold? To be
Yeah,
honest,
you
I
know,
don't think so. It can for some people. For some people, it really can. But that's
But,
not,
you
I don't
know,
think we're seeing a majority of that.
it's really funny that you mentioned that. On this platform, we don't really like to insult people, but we will laugh at male feminists for this one reason. Male feminists generally do whatever feminists say that men should do, and they get no pussy. Like, it's just not like men generally do things based upon efficacy, and male feminists usually get no buns. And in fact, I was talking to a friend about this yesterday, and it's just really weird how you see a lot of angry feminists because of these two things. If the feminist is getting laid, she's generally having sex with the same type of guy that she rails against when she's painting her hair pink or purple or blue and holding up, signs about, access to abortion rights or whatever. So either she's getting no dick and she's very angry, or she is getting dick from the same type of guy that she claims that she is ideologically opposed to. And then she feels the shame of that when she wakes up the next day and have to, put on her feminist pom-poms after she let a chauvinist or knee massager hit it from the back the night before. So these male feminists, you look around and they're standing there holding their dick.
In the February edition of the American Sociological Review, surveyed 4,500 heterosexual married couples from 1992 to 1994. The average age for the men was 46 and the women 44. Now, the study backs me up. I'm just,
Men can improve their sex lives by doing more household chores. Study. Yes, couples who share chores have more sex. Here we go. A study published in the Journal of Marriage and Family in August has found that among couples who share their chores more evenly, there is more sexual gratification. In fact, they say researchers, the only couples reporting having more sex than their forebears did are those who are both getting busy with the household duties. Why do chores change anything? Here we go. The evidence shows that men do a greater share of household chores, share of household work. Women's perception of the relationship, fairness, and satisfaction are greater. Listen, anybody who's dated women, and this is why I say she's a child who has no real life experience. Anybody who's been in a relationship knows.
Wow, we're back to the insults. 1 second. Sorry about that. The headset was like, I need a new battery. Please give me a new battery. Again, he can't even make his point without continuing to insult her. Right now, the shit.
And he always has to
whatever
start
he
with
read,
it.
the article that he read from, we don't even know what the sample size was. It was over 4,000 couples in the sample size that Pearl was referring to. He just read some lines on an article. He probably did a really quick Google search. Somebody said, couples report, and we don't know if they had 3 couples or 3,000, but he just read a couple of lines and said, well, we have this research with no citations. So, she had citations and a large samples to work from, and he just read some lines in a liberal publication with no context. Continue, Jay.
It seems like it was just a prompt. Like it was more of a, this is what I'm saying, this is what I believe, this is the idea that I want to, this I'm basically as opposed to what Pearl was. We experimented with this, we tried, we looked into it, asked the question, got the answer.
Mm-hmm. Right. You know what's really funny?
This is our yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to show you guys something. Okay, I'm going to remove this banner right quick. Okay, and I want you to look at the very bottom, right? At the very bottom here, you know, because they let you view the chapters, right? Do you know how they Pearl lies about research? Now, did Pearl
Why?
wait, did Pearl lie about the research, or did she read it right off the screen?
She read it right off the screen, and then they read so-called research off of their screen. So you can't say
But
you can't say by
yeah.
default she's the one that's lying.
Right. So, you know, this is why I really, I just feel like this is a blind spot for Abba and Preach. I'm not gonna, if you guys want to go and watch the rest of the video, you guys can do that, because I've seen enough. Again, on this platform, we actually fashion this platform, TSP, we fashion it in kind of with the Abba and Preach model in mind, which is civil discourse, giving our thoughts and opinions on various topics, and just kind of applying a common sense approach to it without insulting people. That's usually what Abba and Preach strive to do. On this particular subject, again, they don't live up to the standard that they've created, that they are widely respected for. They're widely respected for doing the opposite of what they do when they cover just pearly things. And it's just really crazy to me, because I think about the men that they've gone at, and they only return the energy that is sent at them. So, you know, when the frauds were talking about, oh, we should fight and all this other stuff, Preach was like, well, okay, let's go. Right? And I had no problem with that. And of course, you know, because they're frauds, you know, they're cowards down there in Miami. Shout out to the frauds in Florida. But here, this is a massive intellectual soft spot for these guys. This is a soft spot in their armor. This does not look good on you guys whatsoever. What else?
Nope, it doesn't.
What else would you like to say on the subject?
Yeah, so allow me to circle back to what I was going to say before we started real quick. So what I was going to say was Pearl did not insult them one time. All she did was analyze the way that they're making their case and how, you know, they nitpick. Notice how they're going from she goes on to like, it's me, me, me. It's not what about your family, what about your kids? What about the relationship itself? It's just me. It's just me. All she did was make observations about their argument. She never personally attacked them. They personally attacked her several times. And even in the chapters, they called her a liar, which isn't true. That's not accurate. They even put an insult in the title of the video. They put a title. They put an insult in the title of the previous video, saying "Just Play Things has always been the clown." So, and they know this, right? Because you said that they've said this before. Like, don't, when you have to insult, you've already lost the argument. You know it. So why are they doing it? So the first time with the initial video, when they didn't do their homework, and you have to call them on that several times, that video that I commented on, that's one time I can let that slide. But now you're not practicing what you preach again. It's not lining up. So now I'm feeling like I need to say that this is hypocritical at this point.
Yeah. And it's starting to look vindictive, is starting to look like it's vitriol driven. And it's like it's just so ridiculously out of character that it's becoming is becoming quite disappointing overall. I don't understand where the fuck this could be coming from, and it's just very disappointing. I think that that's really all there is to say about that. Again, it's just not a subject that I'm going to continue to be a fan of their platform. I will just avoid anything that they have to say about JPT. And this is I'm a person, I don't watch just Pearly Things anymore. I think that what she said and did, and then the subsequent details that came out surrounding how she treats her Africans, I have no desire to watch. I think they recommended to me one of her satellite channels. Don't recommend this channel to me anymore, or any of her. I'm done. Let her go on. If people want to subscribe to her channel, that's their fucking business. But I will not be making a bunch of content shitting on that woman. I said what I had to say about what she how she conducted herself when she had the white supremacist. And he's not even white, he's fucking Mexican. He's a Mexican white supremacist. And the thing is, it's really funny, Spy. I was just like, Fuentes, that sounds very, very Hispanic. How is he a white nationalist? And he's talking about being Italian. You find out his father is Mexican. Oh, there it is. Now, if you want to call that guy a liar, that's okay. I'm fine with that, unless he's claiming to be transracial, which would be a different story.
Yeah, then he's good to go. Then they'll allow that.
Yeah. Well, they didn't allow it when Rachel Dolezal did it, and she was actually doing good for the Black community, and they shit on her. But that's another story for another time. Spy, talk to us about your content, and because I didn't get a chance to get to your video. You know what we'll do real quick? This is what we'll do. We will get into because I actually had a discussion with Captain Paul about channel business, and so I didn't really get a chance to I really did not get an opportunity to look at your video, but I really, really want to kind of cover this with you, because this is your video. I want everybody to kind of get an idea of what Spy J brings to the table. And I've been wanting to watch this video on my own, but we're going to watch it together with the TSP family. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right. So Spy J had a video that he made a couple of years ago entitled "Black Lives Matter All Lives Matter," and so obviously it did not get the amount of views that it deserved to get, but he's going to get one more view here today. Superman music.
For those who live under a rock or down at the Bikini Bottom, you should know that the world is not happy right now. There's ongoing racial injustice, unjust debts, riots, protests, hostile exchanges between the government and civilians, basically just chaos, all while there is still a pandemic that has yet to be slayed. I don't want my political opinions to interfere with the views of my fan base, so I'm not going to comment on anything in particular as of right now. However, if this is the kind of content you'd like, you're free to let me know in the comments section below.
I'm just going to let you
Anywho,
know right now.
To give you some background on why I'm making this video, I'm a fan of the website Omegle. I enjoy talking to some remarkable people with amazing stories to tell, conversating with people from all over the world that I share common interests with, and I enjoy the videos big YouTubers have been posting, such as Logan Paul or Darren Levi. the 2020 Black Lives Matter movement has been protested on Omegle. There are people turning off their webcams or covering them up as part of the blackout trend.
Now, just to kind of give a little bit of context to the viewer, this was around the time where George Floyd was murdered and the aftermath. So we're talking full on, coronavirus lockdown time. There were people who were like, they had cabin fever, and then they watched a cop kneel on a dead body for 5 minutes. And that plus the cabin fever and the economic strife kind of boiled over and exploded. So this video was recorded and produced in the aftermath of these really unfortunate events.
Individuals are also typing BLM, the acronym for Black Lives Matter, as soon as they connect with a stranger to spread the word. I had an old white guy type a paragraph encouraging people to stay safe, and that basically no matter what our beliefs are, what's going to happen to these victims aren't justified in any way by their past or by the color of their skin. It made my day because I am sometimes guilty of being ready to expect other white people to not see themselves on the same floor as the other races. So the people I connect with see me, and by that I mean they see the tone of my skin. And because of these times, this is the first thing they use to initiate conversation. And that's okay. I don't mind talking about it. And some of these individuals have noticed a exhausted and stressed expression on my face. And I tell them that I'm okay. It's just the world right now and that it's not happy. I have a black guy tell me, Black Lives Matter, bro. And people who aren't black are usually say something like, I'm with you, we're with you, Black Lives Matter. And my response is usually, all lives matter. I watched a video that was basically a compilation of people saying, here's why you shouldn't say all lives matter. And while I agreed with the most people ranting about this is offensive, it also put me in a bad state of mind. If you want to pause this video, watch it, and then come back, I will put the link in the top of the description. Alright, so now I'm going to explain why, despite the good points that were made in the video, I still believe that between the phrases Black Lives Matter and All Lives Matter, the latter is the better term. My ideology behind this is that we shouldn't have to stop and consider things from a different way because of the color of someone's skin. We shouldn't be telling ourselves, "Oh my God, look at that person that's being killed by an officer." Oh wait, hold on a second. But they're black. Never mind. This is a completely different ballgame. I disagree with that mindset. Let's face it, racism isn't going anywhere. Ever. Maybe centuries from now, we'll be treated as objectively equal, but there's always going to be people acknowledging that as human beings, we're the same species, but we'll continue to assume that to a degree, we're still not the same human race. That's going to be a thing forever. So while I encourage everyone to fight for justice and fight for change, don't expect for this to completely evaporate and never rain down on us again. I learned something from that video. And what I learned was that Black Lives Matter is short for Black Lives Matter too. Black Lives Matter as well. Black Lives Matter just as much as any other race on the planet. I never painted that picture, but I also never assumed that this movement was proclaiming superiority. For those who think that, trust me, that's not the case. It's not. There is a thing known as white privilege that some people choose to overlook and ignore. And while there are situations where the media jumps on the bandwagon of racism, there are still, in fact, situations where racism, without a doubt, plays a part.
I have to stop it here because this is fucking genius right here. This scene at the end of what was it, the second Thor movie, the second or third Thor
Thor
movie.
Ragnarok, the third Thor movie.
Ragnarok. This this is perfect. This perfectly illustrates the environment that we're living in when it comes to racial inequities. I'm going to continue to play the video, but I just wanted to point out how fucking perfect this is.
Yeah.
My point is, one day, hopefully, Black lives being inferior to other people will be history. One day, right? We're fighting for it now, and maybe it won't actually evolve into that for another half a century. But eventually, we can get there. However, there's still racial injustice towards Hispanics,
We'll get to this,
Asians,
John
and other
Bon
people.
Zombie. We'll get to this.
It's definitely not as common from what we can see, but Black lives aren't the only lives experiencing this. So what can we do to prevent this exact same cycle of Black and white officers taking advantage of other races that have not yet been advocated through this movement? Say the phrase, all lives matter. Listen to that carefully. All lives matter. Not all lives matter, not just Black lives. All lives matter. We are all human beings, and each and every one of us matter as we live and breathe. Not a single one of us should be singled out and categorized as anything else by our ethnicity, or what you assume our ethnicity is by the way that we appear. Now, Black Lives Matter is still a more than valid term. I believe that more than ever now, especially after seeing the video I just mentioned. But here's something else we need to keep in mind. Hispanics matter too. Asians matter. Native Americans matter. Name an ethnicity and tell me that they're not human beings like you and I. You can't. Because all of us matter. All lives matter, people. Thank you all for watching this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed what I have to say, or if you agree with some of the things I made. If you disagree with anything I said, or if anything I said offended anyone, let me know in the comments below. Or also if you just want to add on to what I've already said in this video. Once again, thank you all for watching this video. It's so good to be back, and be sure to stick around after the intro for a question of the day. See you guys all again next time. Goodbye.
All right. So very, very interesting words coming from you. How old were you when you made this video?
Let's see. It was in 2020, so I was mostly 18.
Okay. So you said that you don't really stand by everything that you said there, but the overall premise is there. And, John Bon Zombie is like, hey, I don't really believe in this concept of white privilege. Now, on this platform, because I don't recognize John Bon Zombie. He says, I have never gotten ahead in life due to my skin color, that being white. I want you to stick around for this discussion, John Bon, because I think that we can come to an understanding today. Now, you don't have to agree, but I do want to, I really want to give people some context, because I don't think that people really understand what the phrase white privilege is supposed to denote. So just stick here with me, right? Don't let don't let your brain turn off the reasoning
I want
machine.
to say for a moment that that's actually one of the things I said, in our chat, So I'm kind of in between now. So you know how you just mentioned I don't agree with everything I said back then, but the overall concept is there. So John Bond, I actually have leaned more towards the way you see it over the years. So that was in 2020, so 3 years ago. Back then I felt like that was the exception. All lives matter was the exception out of all my other beliefs. But now I'm like, okay, now I kind of see things more so this way. And like you were about to express, Evil, there is a way in which it denotes that isn't the popular opinion. I think a lot of people see it as this very exaggerated thing that
or a black and
they
white
claim
thing,
is
a binary
yeah, yeah, exactly. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want you to follow me here, okay? I want you to imagine that you are running a 200-meter dash against one person. Okay? Just kind of picture that for a second. Two different lanes. You're both running 200 meters. I say 200 meters because I ran 200 meters in high school and 150 and 55 meters as well. But that's besides the point. Pretend you are running a 200 meter, right? Most people are going to run 200 meters in something like 26 or 27 seconds, somewhere in that. Yeah, somewhere in that range, 26 to 30 seconds. Most people are going to run a 200 meter. Okay. So let's say you're the average person with average speed, right? And let's say I'm also an average person of average speed, right? Now, when you run down the track is flat, it's straight. You get into the blocks, you hear the gun go off or the alarm goes off for you to run, right? You run the race. But then the person who is in the lane next to you, they put tacks down in front of them. They have a fan that is blowing a headwind into their face. They put hurdles. They put plyo boxes in their way. Maybe a burning car. Maybe they make that person run without shoes.
In gravel.
Oh yeah. There's broken glass and gravel on that particular person's track, right? Now, is it fair to say that the person that didn't have all those things has a privilege? No, because they are running the 200 meter the way it was intended to be run, with no hurdles, no bullshit. You know, you're able to wear regular shoes, no artificial headwind being blown into your face to slow you down, right? This is why the concept of white privilege is a bit of a misnomer, and it sets people off, because white people are not necessarily getting benefits. Now, there are some places where white people get benefits because they're white. It's usually in the South, and they're not shy about it. Okay. I think, have you seen Chris Rock's latest special on Netflix?
Yes, I have.
Do you remember that bit when he talked about his mom in the 1960s, where in, I think it was Virginia, it was against the law for black people to go to a white dentist. So since most black people could not get to the education that would allow them to become a dentist, the only place that black people could go there legally to get dental work done was to go to the veterinarian. They were not allowed to seek dental services from white dentists. So when you're talking about, so John Bond is a little bit different. I'm guessing that you might be a Maple Leafs or an Edmonton Oilers fan, right? It's definitely going to be different. I mean, I know that from what I hear, Canada does have some racial issues with Inuits and what have you, but it is. You said Leafs. You're a Leafs fan. So shout out to you. You're coming from the locker room, and Captain Paul. Captain Paul could not be here today, but thank you for joining the conversation. This is going to be a concept that Canadian people are probably not going to understand all that completely. But I use the analogy for you to understand something. In modern day, and after the civil rights era of the 1950s, 60s, and 70s here in the United States, after that era, they took away a lot of obstacles to black people being able to live under the same conditions of white people. But also here in this country, our Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigations, and other bodies that are tasked with the statistical analysis of how people are policed here in the United States, across the board, the racial bias is significant. It is statistically significant across the board as far as who police choose to pull over for traffic stops. Even when it comes to the rate that people are audited for tax purposes, Black people are 3 or 4 times more likely to be audited than white people in the United States. Here in New York City, where I live, we had a stop and frisk policy where the police could basically just stop you without probable cause and, check to see if you have any contraband on you in a free country. And when they did that here in the United States, something between like 85 and 93% of all people stopped were Black and Hispanic. Even though, they're looking for marijuana, all these things. Here in New York City, whites and Blacks use marijuana at the same rates. But somewhere around 90% of the people being stopped to see if they had any were Black and Hispanic.
So it was a rule that applied to everyone.
Yeah,
but
so this
was more likely to get those people.
Right. Like the rules are supposed to apply to everybody, but the way that they're enforced has a very marked racial bias attached to it. And the thing is, I'm not immune to it either. When I walk down the street, if a white guy in a suit walks by, I'm not going to pay all that much attention to him, but certain dudes that might look like me, I'm going to be on higher alert. I'm not saying that racial bias is a bad thing because we all have racial biases. Even you, listener, even you, viewer, you have racial biases. But like I've always said, I don't judge you on your racism. I judge you on what you do with your racism, or rather, what you don't do. If you're not out there actively harming other people with your racial bias and interfering with their right to live life the same way you should have the right to live life. If you're not out there doing that, your racial bias, you're free to have it. I know that you have it because I have them. We all do. And that's just a fact of life. So to me, I don't look at that as an indictment of your character if you have them. But if you're harming people in furtherance of that bias, that's when I have a major problem with you. So I just want to, just kind of give that illustration to understand that in many cases, white people are struggling financially, or white people struggle financially in a lot of parts of America the same way Black people do. So a lot of them are looking around you saying, well, I have all this power because I'm white, but I live in a double wide. And the car out in my front yard is really just a husk because all the parts have been taken from it. I'm struggling just like everybody else. But what you don't see is when you're walking along the side of the road, you're probably going to be less likely to be stopped by a cop and asked where you're going. When you're driving your rust bucket and you make a minor traffic infraction, you're going to be less likely to be pulled over. And it's something that even law enforcement admits to. So, is it implicit biases? Yeah. Is it something that the country is built on systemically, so it's hard to break away from? Yeah, but I'm not going to judge you. I'm just not going to judge you. He said, how can you sit there and say people you don't know have racial bias? Because that is how we are designed as human beings. That is part of human nature. It is literally part of human nature. See, the human brain is constantly evaluating information every millisecond of every day. So what the brain does to make sure that it doesn't overheat and then explode inside your skull is that it offloads certain information in different ways. One of the ways it offloads information is to compartmentalize, to put people in certain boxes, to put them in certain categories so that you can make a snappier decision and not use a lot of brain power in order to understand whether there's a threat there or whether there's safety there. And one of the main differences that you can look at somebody is, do they look like you?
I want to add on to that. So I actually have an answer to that question for you, John. So where I was not very direct about it in the video. But I'm not white at all. Uh, however, I know Evil. I know when we talked yesterday, you said yeah, the country uh not sure if accepting was the word you used, but you said that when it comes to white people and white sounding black people.
Oh yeah, that's me. I'm a white
So
sounding black person.
yeah, so growing up, when I was growing up, I'm still growing up, but I mean as a child, when I was in middle school, I was not the same as people who looked like me. I just
Right.
wasn't. The behavior traits in me as a person and the most common trait in people that look like me, two completely different people. One might even say that the behavior in those people were very common in black people in the South. So for context, I'm from Texas. Well, not from Texas. I've lived in Texas since I was 3 years old.
Mhm. You can claim
One might say
Texas.
that those behavior traits, how they carried themselves in school, was very common in black people in that community, in that environment.
Mhm.
The level of ignorance that they had toward the education system, uh, and just the way they handled the way they approached life. It was ignorant. It was ungrateful, dismissive. There were things wrong with it. They were not focused at all. Their focus was their focus was what have you got on your feet? Who's dating who? Uh, it was never, are you doing your schoolwork? Are you bringing a backpack to school or at least a pencil to school? This was how people who look like me acted. This is how they acted in my middle school and in high school. So I grew up with a bias toward people who look like me because of what I grew up with, because of how they treated me for not being them. I didn't
That's
care
exactly my
about
experience. That's
I
exactly my
didn't
experience.
yeah, look, so I didn't care about wearing name brand shoes. I didn't care about I didn't care about the things that they cared about. Uh and since I was focused, I was ahead of them because they weren't focused. They were focused on things that aren't going to matter when they graduate high school.
Mhm.
And basically, they took that out on me. They gave me a hard time. They always had something to say to me, even if I didn't know them.
Mhm.
They always had their eye on me. They always wanted to get a reaction out of me.
Mhm.
They really loved giving me a hard time. I something tells me in hindsight, I just excited them. They looked forward to giving me a hard time and doing XYZ.
Mhm.
Because I wasn't in their pack and I was ahead of them and I was doing things that I am still doing now and I'm benefiting from. That was around the time that I started uploading to YouTube. What were they doing back then? So in middle school, I was doing YouTube.
Mhm.
I was doing YouTube at that time. What were they doing if I were to ask? They'd probably say nothing but trying to pull women, trying to get girls pregnant at an early age. And that was the case. Uh, I had a pretty above average rate of teenage pregnancies at that middle school.
Mhm.
So I grew up with a bias myself. I find it harder to be attracted to people who look like me because of all I know of them growing up. Now, I'm not gonna hold it against any new person I meet. I'm not going to despise people or hate those me because I don't know those people. The new person that comes into my life, I don't know them at all. I can get to know them, and they can remind me of who I grew up with, but and they also can. So I agree. Well, I definitely grew up with a bias. I definitely still have a bias because I have a bias toward my own people, and then I have a bias toward people who don't look like me, because those people did not treat me like that. Those people are not the same, and those are people that they were much easier to respect, because uh, basically I was able to get down with those people. I was able to be tolerant of them because they were tolerant of me and accept me for who I am. So yes, I agree with Evil. He can say that based on our experiences. Yes, people we don't know also have racial biases, because he didn't know that about me. I didn't know that before this, and so I can presume in the same way that we all experience each other and experience our own life, and bias we have. Yes, that does include a racial bias, and yes, it's designed in who we are as human beings, because that has me, like Evil said, categorizing people box by box. Okay, so these people are probably like this, probably like that. These people are okay, a little bit different or better based on my experience. So yes, John Bond, I believe that you have some experiences in your life. I don't think everyone acted the same. I don't think everyone treated you the same. I'm positive that people have treated you badly, or people have done X, Y, Z to you, and that
Without knowing
creates
who he is.
statistics.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. It creates statistic in your mind of that experience, and then that can give you a bias. So yeah, I agree with
Absolutely.
you, Evil.
Yeah.
But I also see what you're trying to say, John Bond.
Yeah.
I just and it's good when we disagree. And hopefully that example provides some clarity.
You know, it's really funny, Spy, because the disagreement is not total. Because if you actually dig into the nuance of him saying that racial bias is a learned behavior, I think he's partly correct in that a lot of the racial bias that you see that's overt, where somebody's yelling a slur in your face, or they're online saying these people all do this, that's the overt stuff. A lot of that stuff is learned. However, there's a more innate part of us that has biases. In fact, if you want to go more micro than macro, boys, as they grow up, they're going to be more attracted to women that look most like their mother, that look and act most like their own mother than other women. Not saying that they can't be attracted to other women, but they're going to be more drawn towards women that look and act like their mother, personality wise, than any other woman. Girls are going to grow up with the experiences with their father, and they're going to prefer a guy that looks and acts very similar to her father. Like, we are genetically predisposed to wanting to be with like kind. And one of the
That's
more
our first love
obvious
dynamic.
ways, one of the more obvious ways that you can tell the difference between one person and another is the way that they look, the shape of their eyes, the shape of their head, facial features, skin color. You can't get away from it. Hair texture. You can't get away from it. Now, not all racial bias is one group versus the other group. As Jay here just so eloquently put and took the fucking thunder right out of my clouds. My bias was against Black people because the most racism I have ever dealt with in my life came from Black people. Most of the racism that I've experienced have come from Black people as a Black man.
Black people treat each other horribly more than the other races, I would say, to be honest. At least that was my experience, and apparently that's your experience.
No, and I would say that people treat each other like shit pretty equally, but their impetus is probably a little bit different. Like, I remember being introduced to this concept. S.E. Hinton wrote a book called The Outsiders, and they adapted it into a film. I remember they had us read the book and then look at this film when I was in the 3rd grade. And watching the film as a Black kid, I could not understand why the prep kids versus the greasers were an issue, because they were always going at each other. I think somebody ended up getting stabbed in a street melee. And for me, I could not understand. I'm like, why are these factions fighting each other? They're all white. Like, what's the difference? I don't understand. I don't understand why these people are going at each other. They're the same. But what I didn't understand at that time is that they did not practice racial bias against each other. They practiced economic bias against each other, because in the absence of them actually looking any different, they needed to find something else to put some people in higher up in the hierarchy, and other people lower in the hierarchy. So it was a really messed up lesson to learn. Obviously, I'm glad it was through fiction, but it shows itself in everyday life as well, that people are always looking for an acceptable group to shit on so that they can place themselves above that group. Even within the Black community, we have the dark skins versus the light skins, and we're all Black. And the racial bias that's internalized is still there. When I was young, I had the same exact experience the same exact perception of experience that Spy J had, where I'm hearing about all this racism, but then nobody's paying attention in class. Everybody's caring about who's got the latest pair of Jordans, who's got, the jeans that were popular at the time, who is getting more attention from the girls. This girl looks like that. That girl is, slobbing this kid's knob behind the staircase at lunchtime. Nobody really cared about the academic part. Oh, but then they wanted to pick on me because, I paid attention and I did well academically. To them, I was trying to be white by doing well on exams. That was my experience growing up. And this is the 1990s. So
And I remember it clear as day. One time I'm a writer as well, and English or language arts or whatever was always my best subject. I remember clear as day, since I would always look forward to writing the essays. They give you a prompt, you got an essay on it, you turn it in, right? Make sure you write it in XYZ. And I remember clear as day, my teacher was like, okay, Garrett, you're ahead of the game. So, because it's kind of your thing. So we're just going to have you do step 2, which is writing it out in pen. Now that you've got it written out on now that it's finalized in pencil. So everybody in the classroom was still on the first step, which was, just writing it out in pencil, because that's, it's not final draft yet. So you can make edits. While I was already done with my essay, writing it in pen. And once I was done writing it in pen, literally the entire classroom, or at least half the classroom, was their heads were turning, eyes on me. Their heads literally turning as I was walking towards teacher's desk, like remote control camera footage or something. At every time I step, their heads would follow me as I make it to the teacher's desk to complete the final step, because they were still on step 1. And it's the energy was just like, who the hell does he think he is?
Yeah. I can picture situations, growing up in Harlem and the Bronx and Brooklyn. When I was school aged, I went to schools in those 3 places before I left New York City for a couple of years. And that experience I've had multiple times in multiple schools. I want to get to Bon John, because he had a story to tell, and I wanted to make sure he had the opportunity to tell his story. And we will kind of parse this out. And then we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. We are going to have Spy J kind of plug his channel and what he likes to do on that channel. And then we will conclude episode 75. Now, let's get to Bon John. He says, okay, let me give you guys a story. The most successful person in my neighborhood growing up was a rapper. The guy was the nicest guy ever. He worked hard and made it out. Now, I get what you're saying, but I do want to point you to a possible bias of your own. Now, the things that are out of the ordinary are the things that we generally hold on to memory-wise, because, you know, unique experiences, these are things that expand your brain. You were able to remember, I don't know how old you are, John Bond, but you were able to remember this particular person. And I want to highlight the three most important words here. And the three most important words were made it out. And what that tells me is that this guy was out of the ordinary and that the environment probably wasn't optimal. Because in well-to-do communities where the communities are well-to-do and they are closely knit, you don't really have people talking about that community as one to escape from. So, you know, him being a rapper is immaterial. Him working hard and being good to people is what's important. But the sad part about this is that the reason why this stuck with you is because this is not typical. This is atypical. This is the exception and not the rule in a lot of different places, especially where there is economic strife. So I just want to kind of call your attention to that and then say that, you know, it doesn't prove that bias doesn't exist. It, you know, just shows that it's just very difficult for some people to make it past a lot of these obstacles. And he says, my bottom line is no matter what skin color you have, if you respect me, I respect you back. I grew up without bias towards anyone. Well, I will say that this is commendable. I think this is great. And it is what Canadians are known for. However, I know that in Montreal, which is not too far from you, people judge you whether or not you speak English or French. I do know that when we go to date, we men tend to be less exclusionary. We're less biased when it comes to dating women. We pretty much will give attention to whichever girl gives us attention in most cases. But the overall bias is towards women that more look like us. And sometimes it's cultural. Sometimes it's physical. Still a bias. It doesn't mean that, you know, it's a bias against somebody. Sometimes your bias is for someone. You know, when I had a lot of these bad experiences, I mainly, not all the time, but for a lot of the time, I tried to date more white girls than black girls because of the cultural issues, not necessarily because of the physical attractiveness difference between the two. If there were any differences, whatever, every woman's different. But the point being is that my preference was for women that were outside my race. That's still a racial bias. It is still a decision that I made. It is still a preference that I have. And one of the parameters is based on something that is related to or outright race. So yes, it's still a racial bias. It's not a racial bias in the classic sense where you're going against someone. Sometimes it could be your affinity for someone. So, you know, there's different ways that our biases, there's different shapes and forms that they present themselves. Most of them aren't really bad, but racism is known for the bad things that people do and the discrimination that people put others through based upon, you know, skin color. I didn't choose the skin color. You know, when I was born, this is just what happened. The sun hit it a couple of times. It got a little bit darker. It used to be much lighter than this. It is what it is. John Bond goes on to say, I've been called a Nazi, a blue-eyed devil. Oh, yeah, I can already see who called you that. I can already see them. I still don't hate the person who said that to me because the hate in their heart is their own issue. And one of the great quotes that I love is, your opinion of me is none of my business. I love that fucking quote. And it's personified here. And it's great that you don't let it affect you to where you then treat somebody else improperly. And that's really what this platform is about. You know, I mean, we love hockey here, me and Captain Paul, and you do too, John Bond. But the main thing is about having the social discourse here. That's what we do here. And I really do thank you for being a part of that social discourse. And he says, same here, still holding nothing against anyone because I know in my own mind I am free from hate. And I want to let you know, just because you have a risk of bias doesn't mean that you're hateful. That's new age, liberal talk that derails conversations. Everybody has biases. Every single one of us. It doesn't make us bad people. And we need to start talking about our biases in a way that kind of takes the moral value counter out of the equation so that we can actually grow to understand each other. And that's the position that we take here on TSP. Now, I want you guys to know I always make fun of Captain Paul for being a racist. Not because Captain Paul is a racist, because he's not in your classical sense. But because I like to make him uncomfortable as often as possible because I can feel his abs tighten up anytime I call him a racist. So I just do it just to take the piss and to help him get more chiseled abs. I want to thank you guys for joining us for episode 75. Spy J, you're fucking awesome. I want you, because we got a chance to watch one of your videos here, and I thought that your video had a lot of good. It didn't really seem like you had a complete 100% understanding of what you wanted to say because you kind of going back and forth a little bit. It was almost like an internal battle was being fought in real time as you were recording this. Can you tell the people? Hold on a second. I think he heard me talking shit about him. Captain Paul, it seems as though you kind of got the sense that you were being spoken about on the show, and then you called in.
Yeah, sorry, I've been like shit, sick of shit today. I just woke up. Did not feel good. I don't know what happened. I woke up, throwing up. So, so I just woke up. I woke up at like 7, and then I just passed the fuck out.
Well, at least you joined us for the end of the show.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Fuck. Yeah.
Hope you feel better, Paul. You're not Captain Paul anymore. I'm captain for this show.
Spy says that you're no longer the captain.
Suck my dick. Fucking like shit right now.
Yeah.
I think I'll be. But all right. I mean, we'll figure something out.
Yeah. We'll get at you, Paul. Yeah, Captain Paul was not able to join us today. Like I said at the outset, he is still recovering from hip surgery and some complications from some other stuff that only Captain Paul should have the right to talk about when he wants to talk about it. But thank you, Captain Paul, for joining us as I'm wrapping it up.
Can you call it your time?
Yeah. All right. That was Captain Paul, everybody. All right. So, Spy.
Eternal battle. That's where you are.
Yeah. Tell people what you do on your channel and the different places that you can be found.
Right. So, I am on a lot of stuff, but I kind of only do one or two things, being or at least in social media, that I mean. So I'm Spy J on YouTube. You can see my channel name on the banner at the bottom. Just youtube.com/ and take the space out of Spy and J, and you have it. youtube.com/SpyJ. That's pretty much it. And I'm also on Instagram, trying to do better at getting my following on there. And there it is. My Instagram is ISPIJ, and basically, It's not easy for me to categorize my channel because I've done different things over the years. Predominantly, I've played Minecraft. I'm a Minecraft character. I have owned several Minecraft servers, host events on those servers, write the events, and I have, as you just watched, I do commentaries. I basically talk and explain my thoughts on things, as well as I'm a big Marvel fan. I post theory videos. I've recently gotten into edits, and I've also done interviews. I've done different things as of late, so it's kind of hard to like put into one category. But I do different things to see what works and what doesn't, to see what people like and what gets the good feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And with the All Lives Matter video, I thought it was a good, or Black Lives Matter or All Lives Matter. I thought it was a good time for that video. That was a trendy topic. And basically, I thought that my opinion was unpopular, of course, so I decided to go over it. And I actually wasn't. Basically, what happened was I thought I'd go on Omegle and talk to people about the situation with George Floyd and all that, and ask for their opinion on on the issue or the topic and a different subjects. That might have been what you saw. You might have saw the screenshots of me, my Minecraft character at the bottom, at my computer with the other person at the top that I'm talking to on.
Right.
Those were people that I talked with personally about George Floyd, about the whole defund the police agenda, different things, and I decided to take that feedback and take what I've gained from that conversation as well as the video that I kept referencing to, and make a video on it. And that was me hashing all of that out. So for most of my videos, I do write a script. So I wasn't. I may have been like kind of iffy about a few things. However, I wasn't going ad lib. Basically, I
Okay.
was yeah. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to say about the thing about all lives matter so that people can really understand, because one of the reasons why I asked you why how old you were is because one of the things I don't think that you really truly understood at the time is that the phrase all lives matter is actually a racist dog whistle, meaning that the statement itself is not inherently racist, but it was a slogan to try to shout down or counteract the Black Lives Matter phrase. So, and then the dog whistle became a real whistle when people started to fully embrace the White Lives Matter phrasing. So, the reason why that is, and I'm not sure if you've kind of figured this out since then, but I'm going to explain this for the viewers. When people were saying Black Lives Matter, they were saying it in the context that you mentioned in the video, that Black Lives Matter as well as everyone else's. The problem is that our government representatives and law enforcement officers are included in government representatives. They are beholden to the law, just like we are. And everyone is supposed to be treated equally under the law. And what ends up happening is when an officer conducts an extrajudicious killing while performing their job
On duty.
They are held to a lower standard when they kill unarmed Black people. Now, when they kill unarmed white people, the court system recognizes the life that they took, and then they give an appropriate punishment to the officers that took those lives, took whatever lives that they should not have taken. But not only do officers take the lives of unarmed Black people at much higher rates than they take the lives of unarmed white people, because the number is actually usually around the same or more unarmed white people in solid numbers are killed. but because of the interactions are more heavily skewed towards a much smaller portion of the population, the rate per capita against Black people is several times higher than per capita when you look at that. So per 100,000 people, the rates are much higher against unarmed Black civilians than unarmed white civilians. And people need to understand that when you take the life of somebody without due process, that there should be a penalty to pay. And historically in this country, there's very few times that there is ever a penalty paid for taking a Black life. I'll give you an example. There was a woman who claimed that she mistakenly grabbed her firearm when she went to grab her taser to shoot a fleeing suspect. She says
I
was
remember
reaching
this.
for a taser. Now, tasers are bright yellow, and what she pulled out was not bright yellow. Tasers are about 1/3 the weight of a pistol. She pulled it
And
out.
if you remember, she literally kept going like tase him, or like she was referencing out of her mouth for the taser, and she still grabbed her gun.
Even though they're completely different things that don't even look. I mean, one kind of, they both have like a trigger mechanism, but beyond that, there's just really very few.
She should have known what was in her hand, being an officer for as long as she was.
No, she knew. And the thing is, she killed this man, and they just released her after 16 months in jail. She took a 20-year-old man's life and got 16 months. The officer that killed Breonna Taylor in a no-knock raid after midnight while she was laying in her bed fired a whole bunch of shots on unsuspecting people at the wrong house. He just got hired by a nearby sheriff's department near where he killed Breonna Taylor. Was just hired last week.
Wasn't he charged with like shooting the wall or something, damaging the property?
Well, the thing is that there were three charges that were leveled. There were three charges that were brought only because some of the excessive shots that he shot, he didn't get in trouble for killing the unarmed woman who was laying in her bed. Got in trouble because some of the bullets hit the wall.
Exactly.
And then went and passed through the wall of somebody else's. And of course, the people on the other side were white. These are the types of stories why people say Black Lives Matter. It's not because, people believe that only Black Lives Matter. It's because Black lives historically in this country have not mattered as much as other lives. And when you are supposed to be the government, who is supposed to hold all men accountable equally, all men and women, because that's also another bias that they have, because women are not treated the same. They are treated much more lenient than men are. But Black people get much harsher sentences for the same exact crimes under the same circumstances than their white counterparts who commit, again, the same exact crime. Under the same exact situations, the sentencing is different. And it just seems like when these officers kill unarmed Black people, they never really seem to pay the kind of penalty that they should be made to pay. So that's, when the government is saying that your life doesn't matter as much as somebody else's, by the lack of accountability that they hold these officers to when they kill an unarmed Black citizen. This is what gave birth to the slogan Black Lives Matter, because as you very accurately acknowledged in your video, people aren't saying that only Black Lives Matter. It's that our lives also matter alongside yours. So when people were saying all lives matter, what they were trying to say is, we want to silence your pain. We want to say to you, this was a horrible thing that happened, but we're now going to start calling you racist in your grief, because we want to take away the spotlight from a white officer kneeling on a dead body for 5 minutes. We don't want you to think about that, because what's more important is that somebody stole a pair of sneakers and somebody lit a wooden pallet on fire and broke some windows. Those inanimate objects, that's the real tragedy. We don't really care what happened to George Floyd because, but you broke windows and you blocked traffic, and that's what's most important. That's the stuff that we're outraged by. That is why, that kind of environment that we live in, where people try to take the spotlight off of what people are upset about and then try to make it about something else, like what they did with Colin Kaepernick. That's why the slogan Black Lives Matter exists. Now, the organization, fuck them. They're a bunch of scammers. Anyway, moving right along. Spy, you've been fucking excellent. You were as excellent as I expected you to be. Also, thank you for doing Captain Paul's job today.
Yeah, call me Captain Spy from now on.
Yeah, we're gonna call you Captain Spy on occasion. If you want, the next time that you make an appearance on our platform, if you want to take the piss and call yourself Captain Spy, we'll rub that in his face.
I'll remember that
for a little bit. That'll be fun. And you guys in the comment section, I really do appreciate you. Bond Zombie, I really wanted to give you a lot of love for you
interacting
with us in the comment section. Obviously, when you're talking about race, things can get very spicy. What was that, Spy?
Yeah, I said props. Good. That initiation from I think that led to a really good dialogue, and like we keep referring back to, the disagreements are very beneficial, and they usually end up in productive. On this platform, they only productive, and we make lots of progress, and it helps everyone in the end, I would say.
I could not have said that better. Spy J, again, you can come back anytime. We are connected on Discord. You guys should be following. You should, guys, join the Discord. The link is in the description down below. The link to the original Abba and Preach video is, if you want to watch it, we gave you access to it. The link is in the description down below. Thanks, Mrs. Evil. I could not live life without you. These days. Spy J, any final words for our audience?
Yeah, it's definitely been a pleasure. I very much admired once I watched the video that got me where I am now on this platform. I just knew, I was like, yep, these guys are on. So I would definitely like to talk with them, and I'm glad that we got it hooked up. And I would say that this is becoming a pattern for Abba and Preach. I don't think they're definitely not green flags. I think that there's going to be more of that in the future, because it's repetitive at this point. With the video that we just went over, I was like I said, I acknowledged in the video. I definitely learned that Black Lives Matter is that's not where the sentence ends. It ends in as well. It's a statement of inclusion, not a statement of exclusion
or supremacy.
Exactly. And with All Lives Matter, that's definitely coming from a place of. So I mentioned Asians in that video, and then I think not long after that was when Stop Asian Hate started.
Right.
Yeah, and that's where I stand when it comes to All Lives Matter. It's basically, I feel like we need to start fighting for everyone, so that everyone can get the same treatment, the same. That way, we don't have to have that kind of division.
Hey, Sly, did you notice that nobody tried to make a counter slogan to Stop Asian Hate? Did you notice that?
Interesting.
This is something that Black people notice. We noticed the differences in like situations. Nobody tried to counter Stop Asian Hate,
How can you though? You can't really, can you?
but they found a way to try to counter. There were people who were doing the George Floyd challenge. You remember that?
Oh man, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Blind Bat. Thank you for gracing us with your presence once again. Yeah. So, again, Spy, you're, dude. I hear less wisdom from much older people. You are welcome to come back here anytime. If there is a particular, particular subject that you want to get in on and you want to speak on, just hit us up in the Discord.
Yeah, like I said, this went pretty well. So I'll
Yeah.
definitely do some brainstorming and see what else we can discover, and I'll keep my eye out on anything that piques my interest on that might pique you guys on talking about here. So yeah, I think you'll definitely be hearing from me again, you and Cap.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely want you around. Thank you very much, Spy J. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. Okay. Guys, again, the link to the Discord is in the description. Definitely join up. Also, I would like you guys to please hit us up on the email. Let us know if there's some topics that you want us to cover. Talking Shit Podcast LLC at gmail.com. That's TALKINSHIT PODCAST LLC at gmail.com. Follow us on the socials. We're on Narsagram. We're on Twitter. We're on Twitch. Give us some follows over there, please. At Talkin, that's TALKIN_SH_T. Please do that. If you are watching on a platform that's not YouTube, please come on over to YouTube and join the conversation in our comment section where our following is the greatest. That is youtube.com/@TALKINSHIT. And we have the Patreon where you get a more unfiltered version of this platform, especially Captain Paul. He gets to say all of the white supremacist things that he doesn't actually say on the channel. But maybe we can get him to wear a pillowcase with a white pillowcase over his head with the eye holes cut out. I don't know. Can we do that, Cap? I don't know. But he's not really white. He's transparent. And he's a gnome with no soul. Okay. Like, share, and subscribe as always, guys. This is how we grow the platform. Okay. We can't rely on viral videos. We can't rely on videos denouncing women accosting 10-year-old girls in the bathroom because they don't like the Evander Kane jersey they're wearing. So hopefully she burns in hell. The woman that did the spitting, not the girl that she spit at. And I do want to let you guys know how much we appreciate you here on the podcast. Mrs. Evil says, "Thank you, Captain Spy." Let's go. Again, this has been Dr. Evil. We will catch Captain Paul later on. I think he's probably going to be doing some sort of watch party for tonight's hockey game. So you can look for that here on TSP. You may also find him on the locker room, which is also a link that you will find in the description. If you guys like hockey and you didn't come from the hockey channel, definitely check out the locker room. We're going to be changing that from a hockey channel to more of a sports variety channel whenever we can get the branding right for that as the NHL season, the 2022-2023 NHL season draws to a close. Again, I'm Dr. Evil Genius. I really do appreciate all y'all's. Thank you so very much. Special shout out to Spy J. Excellent young man with a working brain. And I really do appreciate everybody who contributed to today's show. Thank you very much. And we don't have my main guy, Dan Jensen, to wish everybody a safe day, a safe and happy day. But I'll say it for you guys. Guys, go out there, live your lives, be safe, and we'll see you in the next one.